My name is Erin, and I decided to do my topic on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, aka Pacific Island. I decided to do this, or I chose this topic mostly because I've been hearing it a lot on the radio, talking about how large this formation has gotten. And so I'd been wanting to kind of look it up myself anyway, and when I saw this as an option, I decided to take advantage of it and to do a little research for you guys. So what I found an article that talked about how this plastic island is formed and what exactly it's formed of, and you'll see the link to that at the bottom of my entry. But pretty much it all starts with something called a gyre. Now, my first question is what is a gyre? And what it is, it's a large circular current that's formed by wind patterns. And it forces the Earth's rotation. So the reason this is important is because the circular motion that the gyres create draw in all the debris and traps it. And in the center of the gyre is a very calm area, and that's kind of where this debris is coming from. I'm sorry, that's where the debris is formed into. So any debris in the ocean is going to eventually find itself in one of these gyres, or it's going to be trapped in one of these gyres. So there's 5 major ocean gyres, and that's the North Pacific, the South Pacific, the North Atlantic, the South Atlantic, and the Indian Ocean. So the entire garbage patch, or I'm sorry, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is located in the North Pacific. So this is where the North Pacific Gyre is. And many of the debris accumulates because it's not biodegradable. And the problem is these plastic pieces are breaking down into smaller pieces. And so this plastic island is pretty much made mostly up of microplastics. And a lot of times the microplastics are so small that you really can't see it with the naked eye. However, there are larger debris that is within this plastic island. But most of the time you'll notice it's mostly, if you look at it, it may look, the water may look murky or cloudy. So one thing that I found interesting is that it's not exactly, when they call it a plastic island, it's, like I said, it's mostly made up of these microplastic pieces, and so it doesn't exactly look like an island that you can go step on. Again, it just has this murky look to it. So I found that to be interesting because in my mind, when I first heard about this, I imagined these great piles of trash just that you could even walk on or something. And I think a lot of people have that misconception. But again, there are larger debris that gets caught up in this, plastic island mixture. They found fishing gear, children's toys, shoes, anything that gets put in the ocean that that's not biodegradable. So approximately 80% of the garbage is generated from land. So this doesn't mean that we're just dumping it into the water. This can be, swept from the coastline due to storms that come through, carried out through rivers, streams, that kind of thing. Or from like a drain overflow, that kind of thing. Sewer overflow is what I'm saying. And the other 20% is created from offshore rigs, boaters, and large ships, like hauling cargo and things like that. So The reason plastic, though, is the main source that makes up this plastic island is because plastic is so durable and it's non-biodegradable, or yeah, non-biodegradable. So it's instead of getting broken down into something that can be reused, it's just going to sit there, and about 1,000 years they say it takes for plastic to actually, you know, break down. So that's pretty significant. I found another article that was written by the New York Times about a week ago, and they're saying that now they're thinking it's about 87,000 tons of plastic. And this is about 4 to 16 times bigger than they originally thought. So roughly the size of California is what they're estimating. So they're saying that it's impossible to remove plastic to remove the plastic island through traditional methods. Such as using like nets and boats and things like that. So instead, a group has actually developed a mechanical system that floats through the water and concentrates the plastics into deep, denser areas so that it then can be collected by boats, taken back to the shore, and then recycled. So some ways that you can help reduce plastic usage, and the way that anyone here in the United States, around the world, when you think about it, just weaning ourselves off of plastic kind of slowly but surely. And it seems almost impossible, just thinking about, when I think about everything that I do during the day, what I come in contact with, and what is plastic and what is not, what I throw away, what I reuse. So one of the things is trying to use as less disposable products as possible. And this might seem kind of like a duh, that makes sense kind of situation, but how often are we going to the Starbucks to get a cup of coffee to go? For that matter, how often are we using straws? That's something, when I was reading up on plastic and ways to reduce, I didn't even really think of a straw, but yeah, I get a straw with, every time I go out to a meal, I get a straw. When I'm at work, I get a straw. So they're actually saying that straws are a huge contribution to just plastic in general out in the garbage and debris and things like that. So, trying to not use plastic water bottles. So that's one thing that I've been very conscientious of lately, is trying to make sure that I take my water bottle or my coffee mug wherever I go, so that way I can reuse it. Grocery bags, of course, is a big one, and I thought about that just yesterday, especially with this project. I always say, plastic instead of paper, or instead of just bringing my own bags. And I actually have a few of my own bags in my kitchen that I could use. So those are some definite ways that you could start today. Again, stop buying water bottles. Each year there's about 20 billion plastic bottles that are tossed into the trash. Purchase items secondhand. So, you think about all the toys and electronics that we use. They have all sorts of plastic packaging. They're made with plastic pieces. So being able just to reuse anything secondhand, it would help. And recycling. So I know this sounds, again, like a duh. Of course, that makes sense. But 14%, less than 14% of plastic packaging is actually recycled. And I know at my community that I work at, we don't recycle. And that's something that I'm trying to work on with the director right now. But it's something, and I think I work at a wonderful community that I was really surprised when I found out that they didn't recycle. So that's something that we can all do every day. And then another thing is putting pressure on the manufacturers. Just my of course, being a dietitian, my first thought was with food. And, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have found something healthy at a fast food. But now that people are demanding healthy, they're demanding more organic and natural, free-range, farm-to-table stuff. You're seeing that more often. And it's starting to creep into those places like McDonald's and things like that. So I think that putting pressure on the manufacturers, saying that this is what we want, we're not going to buy your products if they're wrapped in plastic. And a big thing that I also thought of was something that we talked about at the beginning of the semester, but was when we were talking about grocery stores using so much plastic to wrap the goods in, and for instance at Trader Joe's they'll wrap cucumbers in plastic to keep it fresh longer. But it's silly. I mean, you could go home and just put it in a Tupperware container, using something, a reusable source. So I think that, I know in Europe they're doing the no packaging stores. So everything is coming in bulk, putting it in jars, reusable containers. You come in with your container, you leave, there's no plastic involved. And it's starting to make its way over here. So, I think that that's great. That's a good start, a good step forward. And to answer the last question, do I think that, we can live a life, without plastic? And I think that we've already dug ourselves into a pretty deep hole, and I think that it's possible. Anything's possible. There's people that do it, a small, very, very small percentage. But you have to think about convenience versus, conservation. A lot of the stuff that we use that's plastic is convenient. And, from the little sample packs that I got from my protein powder yesterday to, to the little salt packets, sugar packets that we use every day. I mean, everything does tend to have plastic in it, and it is possible, but it definitely takes a lot of work, a lot of preparation. I definitely think it depends on how much concern, you have. Well, I'm sorry, maybe not concern, because we're all very concerned, but it takes a lot of effort. So do I think we could do it? I think anything's possible, but I think it would be very, very difficult. And I think that some of the examples that I mentioned earlier on how to reduce plastic is a great first step for everyone to make, and they're very doable things that we can all do. So I hope you guys learned a little bit today on my topic, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.